Hi, welcome back to part 2 of my World War II six-wheel drive Jeep project. This time we're on the body. I'll just show you some photos first. This is an original body, troop carry, this one with the drop-down tailgate. Slightly different than the one I'm copying, which is the gun carrier type with the filled in rear section, a bit like the side sections, which is where the petrol tank sits. You can just see the petrol filler cap, locker boxes, and if you look close, the Willis logo in the back. Right, this is how it all started. I bought a new body, just cut it straight through the middle, because I only needed that middle section and the front. First thing was to alter the height of the tunnel, as the M38 gearbox and transfer box is much taller, plus there was no sort of provision for the other prop shaft. That's the tunnel completed with the fuel tank well taken out and a flat plate covered over. Next was the front wings. Because I lengthened the chassis by 8 inches, obviously the wings were too short, also the bonnet. So I cut those down the middle there. Made up the sections, that one there, and the top part of the wing, welded those in, and that's it finished before the skimmer body filler. Onto the back now. That's the first side panel made up. That's it there, fitted to the rear floor section, which is the only panel that I did buy. It's a Jeep trailer floor section. If I just go back, the original one is very much the same as the original floor section. Next photo is the 2 side panels fitted. Next one is the center section at the rear where the petrol tank sits. Not cut out yet. On next to the front corners, which were a nightmare to make. I'll just show you the original one there. Very similar. Onto the inside of the front corner, and then the completed back. Locker box lids, and if you do look close you can just see the Willis logo grafted in the back. Onto the centre section now. About 9 months ago I decided to do this in armour. There's 2 ways to do it. There's an easy way, which you normally see. That's just a piece of quarter plate bolted to the original screen and a piece hang off each side as doors. I chose to do it the difficult way, and that's for it to look exactly the same as the half-track armour. The only problem was where the Jeep lines taper in halfway down the door. It would have meant that when the top part of the half-track door was folded down, it would have been pointing out about 3 or 4 inches, so that was no good. So what I needed to do was make the whole door flat, and to do this I would need to move this taper of the body 8 to 9 inches further forward. I'd then have to make up this complete side panel back to where it's originally joined, and also weld in the recess pieces. You can just see where I've joined in the new side panel to the old, where the wing bolt's on. Right, next job was to make up this small recess to take the doors, or rather for the doors to close against, and also this half round beading that finishes the back edge of the recess. To do this, all I needed was a piece of angle iron, 1/4 inch by 1/4, but couldn't get any. Nearest to it was 1/2 inch. So that meant cutting down the length all the way along, up the pillar, across the top and back down the other side, which measures 16 feet. Twice, that was 32 feet of continuous cutting. Then to form this quadrant, which I cut from a round piece of tube, which was another 24 feet of continuous cutting. That's 56 feet. Then to weld the 1/4 angle iron to the quadrant, which was 16 feet of continuous weld. Then to weld the both parts to the frame, which was another 16 feet of continuous weld. And then grind all those welds back off to dress it up to look as it does now, which I must admit was the only boring job that I've done on this whole project. Next then is that top piece you see there, where I welded the studs in for the canvas to hook over the top. I'm not absolutely sure on the canvas what I'm doing with that, but I think what I'll probably do is just make up a frame that comes up along the back of the seats, across the top and back down the other side, just to cover the cab area. As for doors, obviously they're steel, and then probably just make up a cover to cover the 37mm gun. The other part, I'll just show you around the other side. While I'm on that, just notice a small little Willis data plate there. This piece here is the recess piece I made up to set the glass into, which sets back about 2 inches, just like the half track. And I made up another piece since to fit inside that over the top of the glass, hold that in. I'll just show you the armoured panels I made up. That's the top half of the door with the bolt at the top there. That's the bottom piece of the door with the long bolt, and you can just see the beading I made up on the edge of the door, like the other part of the door. And obviously is the screen with the bolt fixings there to take the other side of the stays that hold the screen up. That's the sliding piece with the wing nut that holds it either up or down. Then just the map holder there. Half track door handles. Bracket, which the small bolt holds the top piece of the door down. And even the hinges I converted to look exactly like an armoured hinge. Cut down in size, made wider, and also twice or 3 times as thick as a normal hinge. And even used the original type, which is raised countersunk screws, to fix them all together. I've just found these other 2 photos that might be of interest. That's the seats made up. Not quite exactly the same, but very similar, where the back piece of the seat folds down onto the base to enable you to get into the back. And this one is of the standard screen before I decided to go armour. You can see there how long the bonnet has yet to be converted by, which is done now. See the wing cut off, and also you can see the chassis extension in front, rather behind the grille, 8 inches I think there, and also in front of the grille. Because I moved the axle forward 8 inches, the spring hanger would have been too close to the front edge of the chassis. And also the other reason I extended that by 4 inches was to give the capstan more room. Even though the capstan were fitted to Jeeps at the latter part of the war, they always seemed too squashed in there. The back edge of the mounting plate was underneath the grille and the front edge was underneath the bumper. So the extra 4 inches there now is giving it a lot more room. Oh, this is just my other Jeep and trailer with its 4 guns. It'll probably be for sale now after this bigger one is completed. That body cross member there now does 4 jobs. You'll see the floor is riveted to it. I welded both side panels to it. Those front corner sections there, they're welded to it. And also when the rear body goes on, the front edge of the rear body is bolted to it. I've just completed this top bow, as it were. Similar to a normal Jeep, but I made this in 3 parts, mainly so I can store it in the back alongside one of the side panels. You see there the brackets I made up there with the tube for the legs to go into, with the pinch bolt there. Obviously one either side, and a similar setup at the top. Slacken the pinch bolt. Just lift this piece out, slot it back in. Obviously the same the other side. So now when the canvas comes over as normal, clipped on the front there, over the top of this bow, down to the floor, and strap it like a normal Jeep would be tied in. This now is about 6 weeks on. Just about finished bolting all the bits that need to go on this middle section of the sort of cab area then. First of all, the seat backs needed to be finished. Need to make that sort of curled piece of tubing that goes over the top of the back of the seat and weld those on. This is the photograph of the original one. That is there. Pretty much the same. Also then, the back of the seat there is folded down. You see the rubber sort of fine matting I've glued to the back. That should actually stand on to climb into the back of the Jeep. And then I've also run that matting right through both footwells, right up to where the bulkhead soundproofing starts. Over that side then you can see the first aid tin bracket, starter switch, all the leather gaiters now in around the levers, including the PTO lever there. Accelerator there, I need to modify that. I've lengthened the bottom of it about 2 inches. And also cut off that ball arm at the top and altered the position of that so that it matched up with the linkage the other side, because it's totally different than a normal Jeep. The only thing was I had to move the pedal an inch closer to the brake pedal, which now obviously narrowed the gap down. So I cut off the sort of foot area of the brake pedal, move that over an inch closer to the steering column to give me a bit more room, and also cut about 10mm off the rounded side of it. I cut a little bit off the clutch pedal, make it look somewhere near the same. Fire extinguisher bracket there and dimmer switch. Onto the dashboard there now. Most of that's completed. The indicator switch there. Small data plate, I hadn't seen one of those before. It's a tyre pressure plate. A small square switch underneath it. That's for a hand operated searchlight, small searchlight, about 6 inches round it is, which is mounted on the outside of this front low windscreen panel. Something a bit different there. 2 buttons there the black one, little small buttons there. One for the siren, the other for a long pattern typed air horn that I bolted into the other wing. All the clocks are in. I'm lucky to find 5 original clocks in good condition. Data plates there on the glove box. You notice the bracket there on that windscreen panel, one there and one underneath that vacuum operated wiper motor, all neatly plumbed in. Anyway, those brackets, normally a carbon rifle is mounted on that windscreen panel, but just to be different, those brackets I made up there will now mount a Thompson machine gun. On this side now to the glass, that's all finished. You see the 2 recessed pieces there that hold the glass in, set back exactly the same as a half track, because that's what I've copied this armour off. I'll just go around the other side a sec. And you'll notice the, well, look-alike rivets that hold it all together. They're not actually rivets, they're round-headed Allen bolts they were. I welded the bit up where the key goes in though to look like rivets, and you see the nut is on the back. The only thing was to tighten these, and sort of, well, there's no Allen key now. So what I did do, I made up this, or converted rather, this mole rips. You just see the tube I welded to the one side of it, at the end of it then is shaped the same size as the dome on the rivet, and the 2 sort of legs on the other side, so when it's clamped together the round bit would clamp the round part of the rivet, and I could use a socket through or between those 2 legs to tighten the nut. So that worked out okay. Small ammo box there made up. The 4 compartments there to take the 4 grenades, because that's how many I've got. I'll pinch the catch there off an old toolbox I got. That's the other white motor there, all plumbed in neatly to the inlet manifold. And last bit in here for the minute is the second lever for the capstan winch. You'll just see there the silver part. That's just some sort of safety sort of arm, so that the winch can't be engaged by accident. That just lifts up and just goes into that hook and it goes back down. The main reason I did that was, as I we'll probably just use this Jeep now in Normandy, and there's always lots of people around the vehicles, particularly kids, grabbing hold of levers or anything they can get their hands on. Mainly about for the front lever, so they can't engage that by accident. Right then, now that this centre section of the body is finished, it's time now to get on with the rear section. There it is there, and as I made this probably 12 months ago, there's now a layer of surface rust all over it. So the next trip now is down to the sandblasters, get all that off, and also get that red oxide off, so that I can paint it then this afternoon. I've just got the rear body back from the sandblasters, and here it is, just ready now for me to put the first coat of the yellow acid etch primer on.
Dad, stop!
That's the etch primer finished. Next up now is the black 2-pack primer, 2 coats of that. I'm using the wet on wet technique, which basically means the second the primer flashes off, the finishing coat goes straight over the top with no flatting in between.
Done?
Here now is the rear body I made up. Just finished painting it in its final colour. Next thing now is to build up this rear end with the lockbox lids, catches, fuel tank in the middle there, rear panel with the lights and reflectors, and it's ready then to be bolted onto the chassis. This is the main fuel tank that I've finally finished. The square there is for the sender unit to be bolted into, and also the round piece is the neck, which I cut out of an original tank so that I could use the strainer and also an original type fuel cap. It holds now about 8 gallons when I tested it for leaks with water, which I've quite a few of. All done now. So 8 gallons there, 3 gallon in the smaller tank which I've got in the rear chassis, which is totally 11 gallon. I would assume this Jeep, now I'm using this 6-cylinder engine, and it being much heavier than a standard Jeep, he's only going to do about 10 miles to the gallon. So that's about 100 miles in fuel I've got. That piece there hanging up is the top of the rear body, really, where the petrol tank sits inside. That goes over the top. I'll just go back to the original photo, and you can see the fuel cap coming up through the top of that rear section. It's all ready for paint now, along with the rear panel there. You just see the skim body filler, or where I welded in the Willis logo. Right, a few weeks on now, and I finally completed this rear body. Everything is bolted on. There's a tank in there, tank cover, the lockbox lids, the covers inside for the back of the lights and the toe socket. Little small tapered recess pieces there, which I made up to mount the catch into. Side reflectors, footman loops all the way along, rear lights, toe socket, rear reflectors, footman loops at the bottom. On this side I mounted the aerial mount. Now it looks much smaller than the standard. That's the standard one in comparison. much bigger. So what I've done, I made up this one much smaller, because the side panel on this 6x6 body is real shallow compared to the deep side panel on the normal Jeep. The light guard in there, this side as well. More footman loops on this side. On the back panel there, you see the brackets, fitting a small shovel and axe on there. And finally on this side panel, the 3 sections of the top bow mounted there with the extended wing nuts I made up there to hold the brackets in. So now it's completed, it can now go onto the chassis. It's been about 18 months now since this engine was built, and it hasn't been turned over at all. So I've taken the rad off to get at the front pulley so I can turn it over quietly with a spanner, just in case one of the rings might have been stuck. I don't think so. And that seems to be okay, so now I'll just connect it up to the battery pack just to turn it over a bit faster. Everything seems to be okay there. And now that I've got the rad off, you can see the drive setup for the capstan winch much clearer. I'll just engage it there. Hang on a second. Get it in the right position. Okay, there. So that's engaged, disengaged. So that all works fine. This is while I'm at it here. This is a photo of that drive setup, and also a photograph of all the components that I made up for that drive assembly. Right then, 6 weeks on, and the engine now is completely finished. All the ancillaries bolted on. I'm not quite sure on those plug caps whether I'll change those for the right angle type. Obviously that white clip on the top there, it's only temporary. I've rigged up a small petrol tank there to run it for a while. Today now was the highlight of this whole 4-year project, and that was to fire this engine up for the first time. Took a bit of starting, but it runs fine now. The only problem I thought I'd get was with the clutch, and that's because I couldn't use the standard Jeep cable setup. I needed to make up a series of levers and pivots like the Studebaker Bellhausen uses. With this, I wasn't sure whether I could get the ratio right between the 6 inches of pedal travel and the 1 inch of thrust arm travel. But a bit of luck on my side there, I think, and it all seems to work fine. So I'll just start it up now and see what it sounds like. Well, more pressure there. And that's what it sounds like. Exactly as I expected. I would say a cross between a Dodge, which uses the bigger 6-cylinder engine, and the Jeep standard 4-cylinder. Wasn't quite sure what that would sound like through that standard Jeep system. But there it is, I think that's as good as it gets. Nothing like a Jeep, because that's exactly what I wanted. Another week gone by. This week, I've gone backwards. You notice there now that I've taken that centerpiece of the body off. All the transmission is stripped out. Last week was the highlight of the whole project, to get the engine running. But after running it for about, 20 minutes, say, it developed a few oil leaks along the transmission. My fault. What I used between all the surfaces was an old design sealer, which meant after the oil got warm, every joint leaked. So it's all in bits now, waiting for the new gasket set, and I'll use the modern day silicone sealer and build it all back up. Also got a few water leaks, one which was behind the flywheel. I can only assume that's that core plug. That one there. Usual water leaks through the head bolts. I never sealed those up, they're done now. And even though I used a new water pump with new gasket, it leaked through there as well. So just a temporary setback. Another week now and it'll all be up and running again, and hopefully for the final time. Right then, after last week's setback, where I had to strip all the transmission back out due to a couple of oil leaks on there, back on track now. Got all the transmission back together, oil leaks sorted out, and it's time to run it again. The other small problem while I was at it was it wouldn't start properly because of the starter motor. But that's sorted now, so it starts much easier now. This time I'll run it through the transmission to test everything along the back here. I won't put the body back on for now, so what I've done, I just made up a small panel there for the switch for the ignition, starter switch, and the 2 gauges I need to keep an eye on. And at the back, whereas last time I ran a small petrol tank, just gravity fed straight into the carb, this time now I've temporarily strapped the main fuel tank I made up, because that needs testing, and also the smaller belly tank underneath. All the fuel lines and the fuel pump, they all need to be tested, so now's the time. Right then, I'll just start it again. Ignition. Right. Normal 2-wheel drive first. There it is there. The first axle. This is the first time I've tried this. Put that in. wheel drive and the first rear axle. All working fine. And now for the big test, transfer box to see 6-wheel drive. Just need to put the camera down a second now because I need to just turn that top fraction to align with gearing that PTO. Right, that's it. And there it is. Six-wheel drive. That's been a long time waiting. 4 years and 3 months to be precise. And it all works perfect. Well done, Andy. My 6-wheel drive transfer magician. Let's go backwards now. Certainly does. That's a pretty good match. Right, I'll just run that now for half an hour or so, just to make sure everything is as it should be. And the next test is the biggest test of all, which is to actually drive it. Obviously not on a road, but what I will do is hire a small racetrack close to me, about 40 miles away. I know that circuit is about a mile each lap, so if I can spend, I don't know, half a day going around there, perhaps 40-50 times, I think that'll finalise everything I need to. Plus the fact the chicane type curbs they've got around the circuit, I can use those as well and give the suspension a proper test. And then if anything is going to break or buckle or snap or whatever, now's the time before I put the body on for the final time. Here's the bonnet and wings finally painted. There you can see at the bottom where I extended it, I don't know, 8 to 9 inches. What I've done there was the top strengthened rib you see is the original one that was on the bonnet. I took that off, welded the extended piece that I made up to it, then plug welded that sort of first strengthened piece back over the join. and then got another one and welded that onto the back edge of the bonnet then. Obviously nothing at the top, just a finished bonnet with a line down the middle. And the wings, what I extended there, same about 8 to 9 inches down through the middle. A lot longer now than the standard Jeep wing. And the same with that one. Another 4 weeks on, and the project's starting to take shape now because I've got the whole front on. After nearly 4.5 years, only now's it's starting to look like a Jeep. Yes, now you can see how much longer the bonnet is compared to a normal Jeep, and obviously the wings. A couple more bits bolted on in there now. Just put the camera down a sec now and I'm looking at the bonnet. Nearly complete in there. Carb top there needs to be, well, I just finished modifying that because that was slightly different. Next up then is the electrics, and more or less complete then. Lubrication guide up there. Well, here we are, an historic day today for the project, and that's to actually drive the Jeep. I've hired the racetrack, Landau racetrack, and here it is, got me driving it there. Done now about, I don't know, about 30 miles so far. One or two little problems, but nothing serious. Steady. That's about a mile around this circuit. Yeah, I've done about 30 miles, I suppose, altogether. There's been no major dramas today now with the drive, so it's ready now for the rear body to go on. And it's more or less completed then. Right then, after yesterday's successful day at the racetrack, testing all the running gear and all the suspension and everything that I made up there, no breakages, not even any repairs, so that's a bit of good news there. So now it's finally ready to put this rear body on. I must have been asked a million times, where do I get all these parts for the 6x6? And like I've said to everyone, there's nothing that you can buy for the 6x6, from the smallest bush pin bracket right up to the biggest piece of chassis, and even all this bodywork. You have to make it all yourself. So they designed a crane there, so I'll get that on now. Right, now that the Jeep is finished, and I've got about 6 months left now before Normandy 2014, I thought I'd make something now to tow behind it. I've recently restored a normal Jeep trailer, but I need something a bit more than that. So what I thought of is this. There's a photo of what it's going to look like. What it is an M10 ammunition trailer. And these were never towed behind a Jeep, far too big and heavy. They towed these behind trucks and small tanks. So what I'm going to do is make an absolute identical copy, but scaled down to suit the Jeep. And this is as far as I've got so far. I folded up all the chassis sections off other photographs I've got, so that's the same. Welded all those up. And I've also finished this quite different lunette. The ring's obviously the same as a Jeep trailer, but the rest of it is totally different because they tow these trailers behind different vehicles with different tow hook heights, which meant that the ring part needed to be higher or lower. And to do this, what they done was, I'll just pull this forward so you can see. This lever on the top, pulling that up and down, pulls on the spring-loaded pin there, which goes into the hole there in the back. And when it's spun around for a vehicle with a higher tow hook, it'll go into the back of that one, just like so. So there it is, that prehistoric looking lever there is exactly how it's supposed to be, and it's a sort of a closer picture of the hook itself. And that's as far as I've got for now. So another week or so now and I'll hopefully have finished the body. Right, a big step forward this time. I've made all the body now, it's completely finished, the tub. Much more detailed than a normal Jeep trailer, totally different. Here's a picture of the side. They've run this trailer on 20-inch wheels, but like I say, it'll be scaled down now to suit 16s. You notice the hooks on the side. I'll just go a bit closer on there. The tie hooks, and this is a picture of the original one. Took some patience to make 15 of those. And we've got that strengthening plate. Which is like that one there. Obviously all the side pieces aren't exactly the same. Down the bottom there, you've got the wheel protector, which is, you can see the front of the wheel there. Just go around over the back. Bit more detail there now on the tailgate drops down. This is a picture of that part. Pretty much identical. Four hinges there. I know you can only see one on this photograph, but exactly the same. Even the hooks, I tried to get that the same. I think it's pretty close to that. And this hole in the back, I did wonder at first what that was for, but what it is for, there's another tow hook that bolts in those four holes there in the back bumper then, to tow another trailer behind that and another one behind that if needed. This is the picture of it, what it's supposed to look like, with that sort of lipper on the edge. And the way the hinges are mounted there, and exactly the same there. Just drop the tailgate down. Like so. And lastly there, that isn't in the picture. It's on these, but it's missing on this one. The light wire guards. That's exactly what they look like. And that's it for another 3 or 4 weeks. Here we are then. Finished the jockey wheel. This really over-engineered setup. I'm sure they could have found something a bit more simple than that, but that's exactly as it is. In its up position, obviously. I'll just drop it down. I should use 2 hands for this, but I can't hold the camera at the same time. So we're releasing this lever, releases those hooks on that bar, which are just there. See the springs hold it on. So we're releasing it like so. I shouldn't do that, but still. Right then, I'll just show you some pictures. First of all of that the jockey wheel there. There he is there. You can see the hooks. And there it is there, exactly the same. Lucky to find that little wheel. Then the piece that holds it locked, which is that pea sort of shaped piece, which in the photograph, there it is there. That's the release lever, which is, this is the photograph once again. No springs on there. This picture there is the top piece was mounted into the chassis, which is there. I've got those brass bushes there, so I can take it off easier. It looks like this on the photograph there. They've got just a welded collar on the bar. Took me weeks to make that. There's another photo here of just exactly there. I'll get two of those in. So that's that. That's it for this one. Right, this is what we're on this week. The toolbox and the handbrake and mechanism. Notice there are two handbrakes on this trailer, one on each side, just at the corner, top of the picture there. And there it is. There's the toolbox to start with. Also inside is the photograph. Oh, you see the lever there, the handbrake lever as well. That's the inside of the box. And that's the inside of the box and the lever there. Simple mechanism there. Just pull on the lever, or release it, and going it the wrong way. That's put it on, and that's put it off. Like I said, one either side. Not done the cables yet, that's next, that is, I think. Same thing. And the other job last week or so has been these rails on the top. Those there, they just move from that one position over to there and stop. Just like they should. And there's the photograph of those. It's coming on now quite alright. Next is this over-engineered, complicated jockey wheel that goes in that gap there. That'll take me a few weeks to make that. And here it is, completely finished. A couple of the small bits there, those handles there. And that box, electrical box that is, what that's for is the, just showing this picture, sort of toe socket that goes in there, which I've not got yet. So all that's left to do is cut that in there. The chains there, that's another thing. Both the rails now on the top. That's it there with the tailgate down, and you can see why the hole is there for the other tow hook to come through. And that's it. It's down to the sandblasters tomorrow now. Get it all blasted, and the next couple of days get it all etch primed, 2-back primed and painted. And that's when you'll see it next. Well, one of the difference on these trailers compared to a normal Jeep trailer, that panel there you see there, is like an under skid that covers the underneath completely, as there's no suspension, believe it or not, on this type of trailer. The axle is just bolted straight up to that centre beam there, and that sheet runs along, and that folded piece in the middle is obviously for the axle to go into. That's it for now. Just finished the first coats of primer. That's the yellow, greeny yellow acid etch primer. And then that old red oxide on this job. There's a chassis there. Lots of the other bits hanging up. And the body tub there. And that and the what is the jockey wheel? Hi, and welcome to the second part of my now completed 6x6 Jeep. I'll just go around it once and then around again in a little bit more detail. I scaled down M10 trailer, armoured trailer. Right, starting at the front then. You can see the wire cutter. I've made that curved as everyone else makes them straight, just to be different. Gun ring mount up there. Carry that 50 cal. Little mine rack there, 2 mines there. Those tubes there are telescopic jacks, so just in case this gun were to be used, just to stabilise it. Oh, another gun mount there, 30 cal there. You made 2 gun mounts to the trailer. See on the other side, the one's opened up, so scissors type mount it is. Small bustle basket on the back. I've never seen one of those on the trailer before. That's the gun mount in its sort of open position then. Over-engineered jockey wheel setup. That's how it is. Another gun mount there. And these are the telescopic jacks, stabilizer jacks. Ammunition boxes. And the 37mm cannon. I didn't actually make the gun. A mate of mine, Bob Cross down in Southampton, he makes all sorts of replica guns, and he made that one. I did make the armour and the mount that allows it to lift about 6 inches on that red lever. Gun sight. That's 50 cal. Obviously had to make up all that mount. Lash there. The 2 extra levers in there. The red one is a copy of the electric handbrake that would have been used for the trailer. On the other longer lever, I'm making a snowplow for it next, and that's the hydraulic pump for it. The other upright lever in the middle of the floor of the tunnel is for the 6x6, and disengage it when I need. Another mine rack with another 3 mines. And another gun mount with a 30 cal, another 30 cal. Just go under the bonnet a second. Oh, there's my other Jeep. Drop the bonnet then. There it is, the 6-cylinder. And there it is. 7 years now total to make every mortal part of that with all the gun mounts and something. Been to France now 4 times with it. Just come back from Normandy and we're off to Souchez now 6-7 weeks. As I got my camera out, I thought I'd just get my other Jeep out. Show you the other part of my collection. This is a 43 Ford, totally restored. Done the finishing touches to this about, I've had this one now about 8 years. Got a 50 cal on there. Taking this one to Normandy about, I don't know, 5 or 6 times. In Belgium with it, and took it to Arnhem in Holland. 43 Jeep trailer there as well. Got this one marked up USAAF. And as I'm a Jeep freak, as you can tell, this is my 3rd Jeep to my collection, which is my road going Jeep, a Wrangler Jeep, which is a TR2 this one, and my private number there. Full litre petrol obviously, only done 50,000 miles. And there they are, my 3 Jeeps.